Okay, so once again, thank you guys for this opportunity for us to kind of share our heart and our mission with the Invictus Project. Once again, my name is Ray Dawson. I'm the founder of the Invictus Project nonprofit. I'm also an investigator with the Randolph County Sheriff's Office, which are a member of the Invictus Task Force. And this is my partner here, Mike Hargrove. He is also an investigator for the Invictus Task Force, and he is our HSI TFO for the task force as well. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into it. So the Invictus Project, we are a nonprofit that was founded with one real singular purpose, and that was to partner with law enforcement to help combat the sexual exploitation and trafficking of children. And so we do that in three components. We have three lanes of effort, if you will, through our enforcement, our education, and our advocacy. And so our enforcement component is a proactive, collaborative approach of combined law enforcement partners. And right now our task force is comprised of the Randolph County Sheriff's Office, the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office, the Davidson County Sheriff's Office, and the Alamance County Sheriff's Office. And we're partnered with the State Bureau of Investigation's ICAC unit and the Department of Homeland Security. We are centrally located in Asheboro, North Carolina, and currently have about 14 investigators that sit in that task force that have no collateral duties. All we do day in and day out is investigate the sexual exploitation and trafficking of our children. And our education component, we have really made a lot of effort in the nonprofit world as far as being able to take the information and data that we are gathering through these investigations and utilizing that to be able to inform the public, not only our parents but our children, of what this fight really looks like. And my cohort and partner in crime, Whitney Miller, she handles the education component of that and speaks at all the schools and churches and does a lot of work in that space for that. And we'll get into that a little bit more. And our advocacy is, we work actively to cultivate those partnerships, whether it be through our CACs or our DSS partners or our educators. Anybody that works with young people, whether it be on the investigative side, the recovery side, the counseling side, we work together with them. We've also found ourselves through 2024 really finding a need to advocate for this work, to advocate for the task force, to make the people, not only just the public, but our legislators and our people that write policies for us, and our law enforcement partners, to make them aware, and we advocate for this work, that they prioritize these investigations within their agencies. So we deal primarily with ICAC tips. And so we think about what is an ICAC tip. And that's jargon that we use. ICAC stands for Internet Crimes Against Children. And they generate tips, what we refer to as cyber tips, and those are pushed down to the task force and we investigate them. And so basically what a cyber tip is, it is an image that depicts the sexual abuse, assault, rape of a child. And what we refer to that in this space is called child sex abuse material. And so typically how a cyber tip is generated, an internet service provider or an electronic service provider identifies an image or video of child sex abuse material. They report it to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children triages that cyber tip and then pushes it out to whatever state has jurisdiction over that, where that incident occurred. Our state Internet Crimes Unit with the State Bureau of Investigations then identifies what local agency that incident happened in, and they push it out there provided that agency has an investigator that is a part of the North Carolina ICAC unit that can investigate that crime. So in last year, in 2024, we had over 28,000 of those tips in North Carolina alone. That is a 585% increase since 2019. And I'm just going to let that soak for a minute. These are images that depict the sexual abuse of a child and they're being reported. Those are the ones that are being reported to us. And currently, right now, that's on average of 2,333 tips a month. And this year, we're projected to go over 30,000 tips. Okay? And so in the state of North Carolina, there's about 255 agents that are authorized to investigate those cases. So as you can imagine, the caseload, and these are very labor-intensive investigations, and there's always a victim at the end of this, right? So just to kind of talk a little bit about what this fight looks like, we put this slide up here as kind of a Q&A. And if you're under the age of 20, keep your hand down, all right? Because we got some young people in here that know what every one of these are. So does everybody know what all of these are? Some of them. Because when we talk about this, and a lot of times we talk about this on the dark web and these creepy internet sites and all this stuff where these things are happening, because that's the image we have in our mind. That is what has been generated and what we refer to as our societal or secular worldview of what this looks like. These are your standard run-of-the-mill social media apps and gaming apps. And these are the platforms in which our young people are on. And if you got kids in your room, or in your home, or you work with children, you know that these, you're familiar with them. Whether you knew what they were called or not, you've probably seen them on a device before. Now do they make a little bit more sense? Kind of identify those? Like Roblox and Fortnite, very popular gaming platforms or gaming apps that young people use. Very popular. And of course, our social media platforms. So when we think about the dark web, those are investigations that are happening. And typically what we're seeing, don't let me misspeak, Mike, but typically what we're seeing on the dark web is where people are trading in very high volumes of child sex abuse material. But where does that material come from? It comes from our children. It comes from our kids, believe that or not. And these are the platforms that our perpetrators are on that are exploiting our children. Do you want to add anything to that, Mike?
Not a single app up here was designed for children to be perpetrated, for children to be exploited. Not a single one of these. These were designed for entertainment purposes. The problem is, and what we see with all these, is that perpetrators are no longer going to the playgrounds. They're coming to these apps because this is where our children are. This is where they're hanging out. How many of you have been at the dinner table and your kids are playing on their phones? They're talking to their friends. This is where this comes from.
Well, that's exactly right. And so, we named this slide, welcome to the predator playground. Because a lot of times when we think about the sexual exploitation and trafficking of our children, we think of this creepy guy in a white van that's driving through the neighborhood, snatching kids off the playground. We're not seeing that in law enforcement. Why? There's no kids on the playground. They're in their bedroom. You can't drag them to a playground. They're in their bedrooms, on their cell phones, on their social media platforms, doing whatever. And we as parents feel like, hey, as long as my child's at home, they're in their bedroom, the house is locked up, we're good. And nothing could be further from the truth. So, I love this slide. So where were you this past Tuesday morning at 10:10 a.m.? Not 10:11 a.m. or 10:09, during that 1 minute at 10:10 a.m. Tuesday morning. Well, I'll tell you what was happening in that moment in time. In North Carolina, there were 298 people actively searching for child sex abuse material online. in that moment of time. That's how prevalent this is. That's how real this fight is for our children. So what we know statistically is that 1 in 3 minors report sharing self-generated child sex abuse material online. 1 in 3. And a statistic that is, so I'm going to just pause for a moment and talk just another moment about the task force. So the INVICTUS task force was stood up in 2024, and I kind of shared the participating agencies in that. And we really got the support of our local legislators and our law enforcement partners within those expanded jurisdictions to push some funding into this to kind of work through a proof of concept. Because this is something that has to go across the state. This is because our philosophy, if all of the kids don't matter, then none of the kids matter. But what we did was we came together to say, let's work through a proof of concept and let's develop a program that is replicable, close enough, scalable, so that it can cover our entire state and then maybe beyond. And so as a result of that, in 2024, we effected 77 arrests within our task force. We seized 190 devices, I think 200 and plus felony charges just in our first year as a task force. And we didn't even get in our task force headquarters until May 17th. But we also identified 440 victims that were previously unknown to law enforcement. And our investigations led to arrests in 27 other states. That's how big of an issue this is. And the reason I brought that up is because we do this day in and day out. So one of the things that we do is we collect data. We have a criminal analyst that works full-time in the task force, and all he does is collect data. So we understand the behaviors of what these predators are doing and what our children are doing. And this is some of the statistics that we're finding and some of this information so that we can inform parents on what this fight really looks like. And so if I told you that out of the child sex abuse material that we uncover as a task force, and this is uniform across the United States, what percentage of that do you think the child generated on their own and pushed out to somebody? They produced that video or that image. That number is over 85%. 85%. And so we're discovering that because our task force our goal was to shift law enforcement from a reactive posture into a proactive posture as it pertained to these investigations. And so a reactive posture is very simple. A crime is committed, it's reported, it's investigated, and then some type of enforcement action is taken. A proactive approach is that we actively pursue a perpetrator before they have an opportunity to offend a child or another child. So the goal of the task force is to shift completely into a proactive posture. And so we conduct a lot of undercover operations, and this is the kind of material that we're seeing on these social media platforms, or some of the results and statistics that we're able to compile. Another component that you guys have all heard about is sexting and sextortion. I'm going to let you talk about that a little bit, Mike.
How many in here over the age of 20 can think about friends? Right? We know what friends are. Our children have been so associated with online platforms like social media, things like that. What does Facebook call your acquaintances? We call them friends, right? Our kids have become accustomed to the fact that everyone is a friend. Everyone's trustworthy because we intermingle those, right? Online life becomes real life. Real life becomes online life. The problem is these kids are getting on here. They're befriending folks. They're befriending folks from other countries here in the U.S., and they're adults. We've even seen juveniles. But what they're doing is they're coming out here and they're befriending these folks, these kids, and they're getting them to, trust them. And sometimes they're extorting the fact of, you sent me one image, you sent me another, and they're taking that and they're just going after that. Hey, I'd like another image. I'd like another image. And once they've done it once, then what are our kids afraid of? They're afraid of, what our parents are going to say. What kind of trouble am I going to get in? And they kind of go down a rabbit hole. The other view on that, and unfortunately we're seeing suicides among teens, especially boys, because they get extorted for these pictures. They have nowhere to turn. They don't know where to turn to their parents or whoever for fear of, ostracization by, their family, by their friends. One of the problems as well is the economic impact that this is happening. Especially Africa has been a real big player. Here, they're getting these pictures, and then they're saying, hey, if you don't send me more, then I'm going to show your pictures if you don't send me money. So now we have a financial aspect of it. Now we're looking to, and they're gaining more and more, and kind of like what he was talking about, trading images on these platforms, they're also looking to sell these images. It's a financial gain for them. The other part is with the financial gain, these kids, they're looking to have a friend, right? And they're trying to get, some kind of contact. And with that, they're just becoming victims because they feel like they've made a friend and they're just being victimized out of trust.
Thank you, Mike. So one of the things that that's becoming more and more prevalent is AI, artificial intelligence. And so I'll just put this out here so none of you guys will sleep again. What we're seeing a lot of now is where there's these applications that people can download that will allow them to take an image of a child and then derobe that child. And so we're seeing that AI-generated images now. And our DA's office in Randolph County, in partnership with some other legislators and prosecutors, and the INVICTUS task force worked very diligently to get HR, I think it's 591 passed, which now, as of December 1st, makes possessing a artificially generated image that depicts a child sexually, that also has been classified as child sex abuse material, and it is a felony. So that's bad enough. But what we're now seeing is when they take these images, that's what they're doing. They take an image, they'll solicit an image from a child, and then they'll say, hey, I'm going to, if you don't send me some money or send me some more pictures, I'm going to put this all over your social media platform and send it to all your friends. That's terrifying for a child. But if there's any people that are school teachers in the room, or youth leaders, or daycare workers, now we're seeing those children are downloading those apps and taking images of their teachers and daycare workers and derobing them and doing the same thing to their teachers. So there's that. You're welcome for that. So let's understand the cycle, right? Because when we talk about this grooming, because that's a big buzzword in this space, of being groomed, and that absolutely is. And a lot of things, that's why I love so much about this work that we're doing, because we do it every day. We do it every single day. And so because of that, we're seeing that a lot of our views of this, especially from an investigator's or a law enforcement standpoint, they're antiquated. We're kind of I mean, this thing is moving so much quicker, and then by the time we compile information and get the awareness to an adult, it's changed. So one of the things that we're seeing now is that we absolutely believe is that when it pertains to the grooming, typically grooming requires some level of interaction and it takes time. What we're seeing, especially in our undercover investigations, those kids are committing to this very, 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 very quickly. Within minutes sometimes, okay, within minutes. And so it causes us to pause and reflect on what is causing this. And this is what we believe, that there has been a complete desensitization. There's no way. Our young people have been desensitized to sexual immorality and desensitized and have been over-sexualized from our culture, because it's in every single thing that we view at home as parents. You can't see a TV show anymore that doesn't express some level of nudity, and then the kids are inundated with it on their social media platform. Literally, when we do an undercover chat operation, jump on a social media platform, portray yourself as a 13-year-old from North Carolina, 13-year-old female from North Carolina, within moments you're being sent nude images. I'm telling you, in minutes. Why are the predators doing this? Because that is what they're used to solicit the desired response from their victim. So not only are we understanding the predator's behavior, but it's helping to understand the victim's behavior so that we can better help serve our community and make parents aware, right? So the grooming process, and I love what Mike said when we were talking through this. He said grooming, they showed up groomed. They showed up groomed now. Because we, as a culture, have groomed them for this. It's okay. It's okay. It's on everything. TikTok, all these social media platforms, kids are doing it, and we as parents have continued to allow this. And as a result, they've been desensitized to this. This is their normal. This is their normal. And so that grooming obviously leads to exploitation, and then exploitation ultimately leads to the trafficking of these children. But it's also important to understand that domestically, so many victims of trafficking entered into that willfully because they were deceived. And they don't see themselves as victims. And that's why this fight becomes very, very difficult. So here's some stats for you. 1 in 5 children in the United States will be sexually exploited online. That statistic is bumped up to about 2 in 5 now. That's what we're seeing. So that's in every 9 minutes, Child Protective Services finds evidence of child sex abuse material. I can speak to Randolph County. Last year, we had over 780 cases referred to CID involving the abuse or sexual abuse of a child. That's ridiculous. That's a huge increase. 93% of the victims know their perpetrator. And as Mike spoke to that earlier, a lot of times, they feel like they know these people because they have a virtual relationship with them, right? But also, what we're finding in our investigations is that a lot of times it's somebody that had some type of access to that child. And it's safer for these perpetrators now because they can interact with this child in person, and then they can interact with this child online and then solicit the desired response from that child to ultimately do a meetup. And so, why proactive? 85% of online offenders are hands-on abusers. We know that from the Butner study. The Butner study was done some years ago, and basically what it found out was that it was a study that was done where they interviewed people that were in federal custody for nothing more than possessing or viewing child sex abuse material. And if they agreed to be interviewed under polygraph, anything they disclosed, they would not be charged for. Okay? And so during that investigation, or during that study that they did under polygraph, 85% of these perpetrators admitted to a contact offense, what we refer to it, hands-on offense, previously not disclosed to law enforcement. And on average, there were 13 lifetime hands-on offenses per perpetrator. So the top ways victims of child sex abuse material are reported knowing their abuser, whether we kind of spoke on that, whether it be a parent, guardian, neighbor, family friend, and it's usually done through online enticement and or sextortion. So how close is this to home? So, I talked about the cyber tips that we have in North Carolina, and it depends on, obviously, the heavier populated areas are going to have more cyber tips generated. They're just per capita, right? But one of the things that we noticed from our undercover operations, which is very important to understand, is that when you drop a pin on where you're going to conduct your operation and say this is where we're going to bring these perpetrators to, where they're going to come to this location with the expectation to have sex with what they believe to be a minor child. And just to give you just some idea, what kicked off our task force was Operation Child Predator in August of 2023. It was the first undercover operation done at this scale in the state of North Carolina's history. And in 4 days, we arrested 19 people that came to Randolph County with the express intent to have sex with what they believed to be a minor child. And we're not talking about a 17-year-old. We're talking about 12-year-old, nonverbal, slightly autistic children. That's what they believed they were meeting up with. Last October 2024, we conducted Operation Millstone, and we effected 26 arrests at that same time. So as a result of that, what we have done on our education side is we have developed these surveys that we're able to ask kids questions when we're going to speak at schools. We give these surveys out and they can fill them out anonymously. And then we're just collecting that data where they don't feel threatened. And as a result of that, actually we've had 8 victims come forward during those school events last year that had disclosed a hands-on offense. So this is some of the material that's on the survey. I know I'm running out of time, so I want to get to the end of this. And so what now? Number one, as parents, we got to ask hard questions. Stop allowing the world to have conversations that you're too scared to. Because I ask parents this all the time. If you're a parent of a child, what parent would not give their life for their child? Would not stand in front of a moving vehicle or take a bullet for their child? But are you as a parent willing to just have some moments of uncomfortableness with your child in order to protect them? Put down your phone. Your kids only model what they see, and they see what you do. And that's a learned behavior that they have. And fight back. It's time to take inventory in our personal lives and see what we can do better to be able to model the correct behavior to our children. So I'm going to skip to these resources so I don't run out of time, because resources are very important. Here's some parent and community resources. For parents, there's some books out here, and all of this is available on our website information-wise. And here's some QR codes that can help you link to some of these things, like the Childhood 2.0, but like the book Anxious Generation really gives you an idea of what the cell phone usage in the last several years has, what it's done to the mental health of our young people, and then some other books there. Now, this, I would be remiss without speaking about this. Bark Technologies and that QR code right there, if you want to click on that, because what that does is, what I'm holding in my hand is a brand new Android Samsung phone. This phone came from Bark Technologies. And what this phone does is that when you receive this phone, inside of it you will have a QR code. You can take your phone, your adult parent phone, you scan that QR code. This phone does not work at all. Once you scan that QR code, then it allows you to enroll in whatever program you want to, whether you want to have cellular minutes or just Wi-Fi only or whatever. And then once you do that, then it activates that phone, this phone. And it's a fully functioning cell phone. The difference is that child cannot put anything on that device without you allowing it to do it, your child to do it. But not only that, it allows you to monitor every single thing that's on this phone without you having your hands on the phone itself. And if you're an iPhone user, you can go to their website, and they can also download that app onto your phone. There's ways to use it for iPhone users. They only sell the Android phones. A very, very powerful resource. And so what we believe at the Invictus Project, without a doubt, the most effective resource for our children is a well-informed and engaged parent. That is paramount, because I will tell you that the days of bringing kids into a gymnasium and telling them about online dangers and to stop doing that, those days are over. Your kids know what they're up against. They know. What they need to know is that you know, and that you're engaged in their lives, and that you're going to be there and put those safeguards in that's going to protect them. And we don't believe in abstinence when it comes to cell phone uses, right? As quickly as our culture is advancing technologically, we do a disservice. Our children are going to have to keep up, right? But we can put safeguards in place and teach our children the right technology at the right age. Safe online practices, those things that help, but it's going to require us as parents to be informed and to be engaged in the lives of our children. And it looks like that concludes our presentation.